Hello again, my comic comrades. With the hype around the new Venom trailer being released this past Tuesday, I thought it was perfect timing to talk about a major addition to Venom's mythos that just happened last week, and it affects the entire symbiote race in comics. That addition would be Knull, god and creator of the symbiote race. That's right, people. Everything we thought we knew about the Clintar, which is the name for the symbiote race, was changed in a single 22-page issue. 2018's Venom issue 4, to be exact. And in case it isn't obvious enough, this episode is going to be spoilerific for that issue, so abandon ship now if that's a problem for you. For everyone else, let's elaborate, shall we? In issue 4 of Venom, we learned that Knull was an ancient deity who existed even before the universe itself. Or as he puts it, in the beginning there was nothing, and that's where he existed. But then the Celestials were born and started creating the universe. Knull says the gods, or Celestials as we know them, created the universe in his kingdom, which we would come to call space. Yes, according to the story, this dude's domain was space. Pure and utter empty space. And he didn't take it too kindly when the universe was being made in his kingdom. Now you may be thinking space was just an empty vacuum before these gods arrived, so how could he be the ruler of nothingness? Well, Knull explains it like this. My kingdom was not empty. My abyss was not dead, not hollow. The endlessness of my lands was not theirs to raise and reform and remake. No, the void breathes. The abyss has teeth, and shadows only grow in the light. As Knull is saying this, he creates a living sword from his shadow, followed by cutting off one of the Celestials' heads. No, I am not kidding. This guy is so OP, he decapitated a Celestial by himself. Of course, the other Celestials weren't having it and banished him to the Void. But that wasn't smart because the Void is where he thrives, and there his work began. He started creating the very first of the symbiote race, which was a living blade. Knull used the Celestial severed head as a forge to temper his symbiote sword in its cosmic energies. He then recaps that he was unrefined in those early days, and as a result, his creation, the proto-symbiote, was unclean. He says, "To this day, the weaker of my creations carry the scars of their progenitor's birth inside of them. They still fear the fire of the forge and the discordant and incessant noise of a celestial hammer beating their will into something wieldy." That statement right there is huge because it gives us an explanation for why symbiote's weakness is sound and fire. That's actually really cool. Anyway, intent on taking down the divine light that had taken his kingdom of darkness, Knull manifested the very first symbiotic suit of armor from the darkness he had commanded and embarked on genocide against the other gods. Because what else would you do on a Sunday? He was so successful at first that his sword became known by many names, like All Black, the Necro Sword, and the God Slayer. Together, he and his living sword slit the throats of creation, which is literally how he put it. This guy is intense. But of course, evil eventually always falls, and he was ultimately defeated and his sword All Black was taken from him. But Knull isn't a guy to stay down, so what did he do? He searched for a new weapon and discovered that if he bonded his living abyss with lesser creatures, he could then manifest and pilot their new forms as vessels. As he put it, this moment, this primordial instance of symbiosis on this near barren land, this is where it all truly began. It was here he created a symbiote horde and he was at the center of it. The hive mind, or the God Host. He controlled them from across galaxies. It could see what they saw. However, when a dragon-like composite symbiote under Knull's control arrived on Earth and was defeated by Thor, Knull's connection to the symbiotes was severed. With his connection lost, his symbiotes began to seek new hosts, and these new hosts infected them with light. The symbiotes started to believe in honor and nobility as they bonded to benevolent hosts, and this began seeping into the hive. Knull says this was their infection, their poison, their venom. See what the writer did there? You see what he did? Because of this, the symbiotes began to spawn endlessly and revolted against Knull, imprisoning him. And where did they imprison him? Well, it's funny you should ask. You know how all these years we've known Clintar as the name of their race and planet they come from? It turns out that Clintar is actually their word for cage, and a crap ton of symbiotes came together to imprison, or in this case, cage Knull at the center of this so-called planet. So after all these years, we learned that there was never truly a planet of the symbiotes, but it's rather a countless number of symbiotes that came together to cage and imprison Knull. Just crazy. Again, when the symbiotes' connection to their creator Knull was severed, they started gravitating toward the light and became ashamed of their dark origins. So the symbiotes of Clintar invented and perpetuated a lie that their species was naturally good. But as we now know, that couldn't be farther from the truth. But there you have it, friends, the new origin of the symbiotes and the being who created them. What do you guys think about this? Do you think it's cool finding out after all these years that everything we knew about the symbiote race was a lie by them to protect their evil past? Or do you hate it? I personally kind of like it. I think it's pretty cool that they expanded the symbiote origin, making their mythos more compelling and complex. I also like the fact that we learned why they're scared of sound and fire. Not to mention, Knull is a pretty cool character, so all in all, I like it. I'm all for expanding characters' mythos as long as it's done well, and I think this is a pretty cool concept. But hey, that's just my 2 cents. I know many of you will not agree with me, so let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. And that's going to bring another episode of Variant to a close, but remember, links for all our social media is in the description below as always, but I'll see you guys next time when I talk about all things comics. What's up, my comic comrades? The time has finally come. The long-awaited Marvel event, King in Black, is here. This event has been teased ever since the introduction of Knull well over a year ago in the Venom title. He's the Lord of the Abyss and the God of the Symbiotes, and he's finally arrived on Earth to do what he does best, destroy worlds, leaving nothing left but complete and utter darkness. But if you want to know more about Knull and who he is, check out our Origin of Knull episode right here, as well as the Road to King in Black within the Venom Beyond story arc, which we covered and you could also find right here. With that said, spoilers incoming as we're about to break down the entire first issue of King in Black. And let me just say, it is glorious. The issue starts off with Eddie Brock standing on a ledge of a building saying, "He's here, we can feel him," screaming through the black, racing toward the whole of creation, his hands wrapping around the world's throat. He continues to think to himself, this is it, no more running, no more hiding. He then radios into Captain America saying, "It's me, it's time. Knull, the Lord of the Abyss, the God of the Symbiotes, he's arrived," as he jumps off the building, turning into Venom. Then on the next page, we see Venom swinging through the city saying, "The call goes out, all hands on deck. If the plan holds, the evacuations will start any second now," as we see the Avengers being alerted on their phones that it's time. The next 2 pages then show Eddie arriving to his apartment where his son Dylan is asleep. He then says, "I'm nervous, but not because of Knull. That fear will come later. Right now I'm scared because of this, because of waking up my son into this nightmare." Eddie then sits next to his son watching him sleep, wishing that his son never had to inherit his darkness. Dylan then wakes up saying, "I know, I could feel it too. He's here, isn't he?" Then on the next page at Avengers Mountain, we see Iron Man, Captain America, She-Hulk, and Captain Marvel preparing for Knull's invasion. Captain America then asks Tony, "Where are we at?" He replies, "It's hard to say, but from the intel Brock gave us, we know that Knull and his symbiote hordes don't leave heat signatures, so we don't have an exact lock on them just yet, but they're gonna trip over our landmines either way." Cap says, "Is that what we're calling them?" Iron Man responds, "Silver linings, Cap." As we learn, Tony turned the leftover armada of the Kree and Skrull warships floating around in the upper atmosphere into bombs. Captain America then tells Tony, just like turning things into bombs, and he replies, "Old habits." Speaking of bombs, any word on the big man yet? Cap says, "Still waiting. I'd say a prayer if I were you." At which point Captain Marvel says, "Heads up, good news and bad news, boys. Looks like we found them, but we're gonna need a bigger bomb." And on the next page, we see countless symbiote dragons making their way into Earth's atmosphere. At which point Iron Man says, "How dare you," to Captain Marvel's bigger bomb comment. And then he says, "Fire." The ships then start exploding all around the dragons, but the problem is there's too many of them. So the bombs didn't even put a dent in them considering how many of them there are. And as Eddie is trying to get his son Dylan to safety, he feels Knull saying, "It didn't work. Took out at least 100 of them, but it didn't even slow them down. Oh my God, he can't be stopped." At this point, Captain America starts running saying, "All teams, move, move, move. This is not a drill, people. This is it." We then get an awesome 2-page spread seeing countless numbers of Knull's symbiote dragons raining down on the city as the Fantastic Four look on over the water, with a caption saying in the sky, "The King in Black." And I just gotta pause for a second and appreciate this beautiful piece of art by Ryan Stegman. It looks amazing seeing all those dragons rain down on the city. It is gorgeously terrifying. I love it. Meanwhile, Eddie is taking Dylan to an underground bunker that Peter gave him access to. It's the same bunker that Ezekiel made for Peter that can survive a nuclear holocaust. Dylan is trying to argue with his dad saying, "I could help you. You know what I could do. I have powers like him." But Eddie won't have it, saying, "Dylan, that's enough. I made you a promise. I told you I would protect you no matter what, son." Eddie then tells Dylan, "I'm gonna end this. Please, this is the last thing I'll ask of you. Stay here. If anyone besides me opens this door," Dylan then interrupts saying, "Dad, please, come back. Then as the door closes, he tells Dylan, I love you, son. Then over his comms, Cap tells Brock, plan B, to which he says, I know. And on the next page, we see plan B means things have gone to crap, and the first wave of defense is the ground. Captain America has assembled an evacuation team of street-level heroes, which focuses on electricity-based powers. As the heroes think Knull's only weaknesses are lightning, cosmic power, and maybe magic. We then see characters like Iron Fist, Captain America, and Doctor Strange fight off the symbiote dragons and save as many civilians as possible. Captain America then radios into Tony saying, any word from Thor? He says nothing yet, but our big gun is entering orbit now. Shouldn't be long. He then says, we need backup now, Tony, at which point a voice says, Iron Man, Captain America, please excuse this intrusion into your minds. This is Charles Xavier. If you require backup, please stand by. As we see the X-Men joining the fight, fighting off symbiote dragons in Washington Square Park. We then learn that the heroes need to sever the connection Knull has over his dragon horde as quickly as possible and as much as possible. Professor X then says, surely a god of thunder would be helpful, but may I suggest a goddess of? And Storm interrupts saying, Charles, please, I'm trying to concentrate. So it looks like until Thor arrives, Storm has her hands full. Meanwhile, Venom is making his way underground to the spire that was left over from Carnage's assault in the Absolute Carnage event. Said spire is how Carnage was able to control his hordes. So what he says to himself is, with any luck, it would allow us to safely connect to the hive without being consumed by it. Emphasis on the word luck. Meaning that Eddie's hoping that Storm or the other heroes can break the dragons out of the hive with lightning or magic, then maybe he'll be able to control them from here and make his own army. So he connects and says, let's go. Elsewhere, Doctor Strange says, this is Doctor Strange broadcasting all radio, mental, and spiritual planes. If you can hear me, please come in. These dragons are unlike any I have ever faced. They are breaking through my barriers as fast as I can make them. Dude, if Doctor Strange says that he's having a hard time with these dragons, the Sorcerer Supreme, you know this is no joke. Meanwhile, while Eddie hooks up with Carnage's old spire, he says, I could see it. Oh God, run. Run. It's not just the dragons. It's not just Knull. And on the next page, we see 3 symbiote celestials arrive on Earth as well. This is absolutely insane. It's ridiculous seeing symbiote celestials, giant gods that have symbiotes on them. That's all that means. And if you watched the Origin of Knull episode or just know his origin, you know the celestials were his first enemy. And as the comic says, it looks like he settled the score. Once the celestials plant their feet on Earth, we see Knull emerge from the inside of one of them saying, I see my reputation precedes me, so I won't waste your time. I'm gonna kill your world. In the meantime, I'm looking for a human named Brock. So bring him to me, and this can be as painless and as quick as I am capable. That is all. As we see Knull in all of his badass looking glory. And on the next page, Captain America responds by saying, okay everyone, back. Get back. Iron Man then radios in saying, you calling a retreat? Captain America replies, Tony, the game has changed. Where the hell is? And Tony interrupts him saying, getting a lock on him now. As Tony continues to say, be careful, Knull is right on top of you. Knull then flies down saying to all the heroes, well look at this, a welcoming party for my coronation. How nice, and who are all of you supposed to be? As he stares at the Earth's mightiest heroes. Iron Man then tells Captain America, I have a lock on the big gun. He's inbound now. 10 seconds. Captain America then responds to Knull saying, normally we're the last guys you would ever like to see, but today we're just here to watch. As Tony tells Captain America, he's here and awaiting your orders. Captain America responds, permission granted. Go introduce yourself, Sentry. Then on the next page, we see Sentry saluting Captain America saying, yes sir, Captain, it would be my pleasure. As he flies through one of the symbiote celestial heads, to which Knull says, no, I'll kill you. Hold up, Sentry has just entered the building, people, and he already decapitated one of the symbiote celestials, which is insane. Last time I remember being this excited to see the Sentry was when he showed up to fight the Hulk in the World War Hulk storyline. Then on the next page, Sentry grabs Knull and starts flying into space saying, hi, my name is Bob. You could call me Sentry. This will all be over and before he can finish his sentence, Knull grabs his right arm and his head and says, there's no need for any of that. My horde has a memory of you. You once killed the one called Carnage. Now let me introduce myself. And then on the next page, we see Knull literally rip Sentry apart, releasing the void within him. But Knull, being the god of the void and darkness, greets the void saying, child, I am Knull, lord of the abyss, god of the symbiotes. The darkness inside of you, that darkness bows to me. I am the void. Okay, we need to pause again. Not only did Knull just stomp and defeat Sentry, ripping him apart, releasing the void with his bare hands, which you can't even call a fight, Knull just literally had his way with him. But on top of that, the void within Sentry was instantly tamed and bowed to Knull because he is darkness. He is the void. As the comic says, the darkness bows to me. I am the void. Crazy. This is definitely one of those moments that will be talked about and referenced for years when you're talking about badass and powerful moments in comics. Years from now, people will be saying, remember the time Knull obliterated Sentry with pretty much a single motion of his hands? Just nuts, because Sentry is a character that's on par with the likes of Superman. Anyway, let's move on. Obviously, at this point, the Avengers are freaking out as their secret weapon was destroyed by Knull with his bare hands. So Iron Man radios into Captain America saying, get out of there, now. Do you hear me? We have to regroup. We cannot win this right now. We are out of options. Run. Cap then says, there's always one more thing we could do. secure the city. Get as many people clear as you can. We'll hold the line. Avengers, assemble. And as Captain America shouts the Avengers' famous battle cry, Knull looks down at Captain America saying, was that it? Your defiant last stand? I must say, I'm not terribly impressed. I hope the mighty Earth would have proven more worthy of a battle. Alas, you will fall like the rest. I have met your armies, little ones. Meet mine. As he has the symbiotes rise from the ground, trapping and encasing the Avengers. After incapacitating the Avengers, Knull says, there, that's much better. Now let's make sure we aren't interrupted any further from that sky of yours. No more distractions. No more of your sun. No more stars. No more light. Yeah, you see? Isn't this much better? As we see him cover the entire Earth in a symbiote dome, trapping it in darkness. Guys, this book is a lot of fun. This is going to be a great storyline. After this, Storm is like, Charles, Tony, could someone explain to me what just happened? At which point, Tony tells her, Knull just covered the entire Earth in a symbiote dome. Storm then replies, okay, so I need a plan here. I cannot keep this up, as she's been using her lightning to blast Knull's dragons. At which point, Knull spots her and makes quick work of her. Meanwhile, Eddie gives up trying to take control of some of Knull's army, saying to his other, we're just going to give him what he wants. We're turning ourselves in. And his Venom symbiote agrees, saying, yes, this is the only way, while also telling Eddie, I wanted to tell you, no matter what happens, wanted to make sure you knew that I, and Eddie interrupts saying, yeah, I know. Last dance, partner. You ready? Now let's go meet our maker, which was a nice little beat. It was really cool seeing the Venom symbiote about to say I love you to Eddie. I really like how far their partnership has come and how they've bonded. Come on. I had to. It was low-hanging fruit. At this point, Knull's hand comes crashing through the walls, grabbing Venom. He then starts holding him over the city, which is being covered with symbiotes. At which point, Eddie interrupts, saying, please, just take me. It doesn't have to be this way. Knull then says, wait, I know you. You're the host that beat my dragon. I thought I killed you. Ha. Minds are funny that way, I suppose. I do apologize. There's been a bit of confusion. Brock says, what? What are you talking about? Knull says, my fault, really. I should have specified which Brock. Revealing that Knull isn't here for Eddie. He's here for his son, Dylan Brock. Knull then says, Eddie, I will take my child from you, and then I will take yours. But I'm afraid I do not have much use for you. As he lets go of Eddie, dropping him back down to Earth without his Venom symbiote. And just like that, we have to wait till next month to see what happens.